Hi, everyone. Russ Gordon, interim pastor at Trinity Lutheran Church in Ventura, and a licensed marriage and families therapist for the state of California. We are in the midst of our ongoing series called Surviving, Even Thriving in Virus Times, and praying and working toward making this unusual time that we are in a productive time, a time that improves our own personal lives, our own sense of self, and our own actions and behavior, as well as improving our relationships with those, especially that we are closest to, the ones we love the most. And we went through a series of parts already. This is part 6, and I want to talk about essentially that we have two brains. And we'll get to that in just a minute. So I think what we all really want are loving, healthy families that get along really well. They're not going to be perfect. None of us are perfect. And so we need to practice patience. We need to practice understanding, listening, care, and for a lot of forgiveness too. And so that takes work as well and attention to that matter. And so, what this time can be when families are spending more time than ever before together can be a productive time rather than seeing it as a burden, seeing it as, oh gosh, I've got to think of something to do, or a bothersome time. Turn that around, turn that attitude around, and turn it into something that is an opportunity for you. Because believe me, when things go back to normal as they can be, you're going to miss that time with your children, with your grandchildren, with whomever you're with, and whoever you're really spending a lot more time talking to. But let's talk about, in essence, we human beings have two parts to our brains. There's multiple parts to our brains, yes, and I'm not a neurologist, so I'm not going to get into that. But there are two essential parts to our brain. And it's important to understand this because it relates to how we sometimes react or respond in stressful situations. And it might be helpful for us to understand what's going on with us up here when we are in the midst of conflict in our life and in our relationships. All right. So the one part of our brain is called the amygdala, which is at the base of our spinal column. The limbic system is a part of the amygdala, and it sits there at the base of the spinal column for a reason. All animals have an amygdala and a limbic system because it is the seat of reaction where quick responses are needed. And that's why it's close to the spinal column so that the message can get out to the rest of the body. So, for instance, if an animal or a human being feels hunger, you don't really have to think about it. Hungry, oh, gosh, I must be hungry. Uh, Maybe I'll go to the refrigerator. You just, the stomach's growling, and you just know you need to eat. So other animals do too. It's not something they need to spend a whole day thinking about. Or pleasure is the seat of pleasure as well, and procreation. But most importantly, for our discussion here, it's the reactionary place whenever an animal or a human being feels they're under stress or they feel like they're under any sense of danger. So it is the state of fight, flight, or freeze. And that's the choices animals have when stress or danger comes upon them. All right. Take my cat, for instance. If my cat senses any danger at all, he's gone. He's out of here. Boom. And so that's the flight mentality that many animals have, and that's to protect themselves, right? The other one is to fight. Some animals, if they're under attack, they'll just turn around and fight back. All right, think of a grizzly bear or something like that. And then there's the freeze mentality. Maybe if I'm real still, they won't pay attention to me. They won't even know I'm here. Think of a possum. A possum can be sitting there and not move at all. You could be jabbing at them and being right next to them and taunting them, and they'll just kind of sit there, right, pretending like if they're free, if they're frozen enough, if they're still enough, you'll go away and you won't bother them. All right. So that's usually the three kinds of responses that animals have, and we human beings have too. And it's usually not something we need to think about and process. Gee, I'm under danger here. What should I do? Should I fight or should I flee or what? We don't think about it. It's just automatic. And oftentimes it's taught to us those kinds of responses when we were growing up in our families. Some children learned how to, if there was conflict between mom and dad, for instance, they knew how to exit stage left, hide in the bedroom, leave the house. I had a client who would run into the barn, and he would hide out there until mom and dad cooled down a little bit. So that's a flight mentality. And then there is the fight. Maybe children, not too often, but sometimes would get into the midst of the fight and try to break it up. And then there's the freeze mentality. If one of your partners, for instance, is not responding, and you're trying to, maybe intensely try to get something accomplished and make a decision and fix something, and they're just kind of being real quiet. Maybe that's what they learned too. They learned how to cocoon and to protect themselves by pretending like if they shrink small enough, maybe the problem will go away. So that's oftentimes one of those three is a reaction that we have. Now, so think about some examples in your life, maybe from childhood or maybe in the relationships that right now you are having, and maybe some of them aren't going as smoothly as they could. What kind of reaction do you tend to have? Do you fight back? Do you flee? Or do you just freeze and hide out? And typically those three reactions, again, like I mentioned, they are there naturally as a sign of safety for you. It's your go-to place in case you are under great stress or you feel like you're in danger, you're not safe in some way. That's what you tend to do. But they tend not to be a healthy way of getting through an issue or to smooth out and make healthy a relationship that you love. And so that's why God gave we human beings the cerebral cortex, the front part of our brain. And that is the thinking, processing, figuring out, mature, planning, dreaming, imagining part of the brain. And so that's the one that we need to engage in, is the cerebral cortex part of the brain. But what tends to happen when animals, or we human beings especially, are under stress is that this is the go-to part of the brain. In fact, if it's under repeated stress and you're well practiced in what you do, fight, freeze, or flee, then this is the go-to part of the brain. It's been seen and tested by neurologists that this part lights up, the amygdala or the limbic system, and this part of the brain kind of shuts down the thinking, processing part of the brain, the part that figures out, okay, if I say this, it may not come across very well. Maybe I shouldn't say that. Choose those words, use that tone of voice. Maybe instead, what would be a healthier, better way to work this matter out with my partner? Maybe I should say it this way, this tone of voice. That's this part of the brain working, right? So usually in a fight, this is the part that gets used and this part gets shut down. So it's important for us to think about that we're a biological human being. We're partly, our brains are partly a big part of who we are. Our brains are an amazing organs, and so we tend to only use one part of it rather than the full part of it, the part that God gave to we human beings. Unfortunately, that we don't use that enough to think about calm, healthy, wonderful, warm ways to make our relationships all the better. So think about the parts that we have talked about before in previous sessions. If this is the first part that you're visiting, go all the way back to part 1 and do 2 and 3 and 4 and 5, and you will see kind of a course building there. And maybe this is a course, or this part about the brain we should have talked about earlier, but I think maybe it fits now that you can see in the guidelines that I shared with you how you really need to think about using this part of the brain, how to work through situations that when you are under stress, either as individually or as a couple or as a family, how you can better work things out. All right, that's enough for today, and God bless you, and let me know if you have any questions. You can call Tess at the office and she'll get you in contact with me. Alrighty. God bless. Bye bye.